it pretty far, all things considered. Thanks for your applause. Still every time I close the door and another won't open, I get this panic that my life is now on pause. The dark gets cleared, the board's been cleaned, there's nothing left on my screen. The plate is empty, so it seems. Now is the time to ask, okay, what's next? This was fun while it lasted, nothing comes till you ask it. So I'd really like to know what's next. Around the corner, down the street, whatever's meant for me to meet, I'm waiting for it anxiously, so tell me please, what's next? Silently it's haunting me and I'd like it to go. See, I could be 103 and still moving slow, full of promise and potential till my eyes finally close. But I got time, got years and years, work to do, but I got fears, and there's a ringing in my ears, so still I gotta ask, okay, what's next? This was fun while it lasted, nothing comes till you ask it. So I'd really like to know what's next. Around the corner, down the street, whatever's meant for me to meet, I'm waiting for it anxiously, so tell me please, what's next?
All right. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in this beautiful, transformative planet of ours. This is Metaphysical Mocha Monday. I am your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector. Let me just check my lighting here. Yeah, it's a little bright. Okay. Kind of the weird, it's getting ready to be the sunrise here in Seattle, Washington. So the colors are always, the lighting is always a little bit different. So thanks for joining in this morning. This morning, we're going to talk about a few different things for Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, and then we'll get into the Compassion Cafe right after this at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you are new to the show, make sure to share out, contribute, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, as they say. And let me just make sure that we're broadcasting okay, because I did get a connection timed out, so I wasn't sure what that meant, but according to Zoom, it says we're live on Facebook. So Zoom's been doing a lot of updates for those of you that are in the Zoom rooms a lot, or the digital transformation, as I like to say. And you know, it's always just changing. So good morning to all of you. I see a few of you tuning in. Thanks for being here. Go ahead and just take a nice deep breath. Let's practice practice the pause, as one of my students taught to group last year, and I've used it ever since. But practice the pause. Take a nice deep breath. Move into the magic of the moment. A lot going on in our world, from uncertainty of this pandemic to just the chaos of life. And really just take this next 30 minutes to hang out with me, grab your coffee, grab your tea. Let's philosophize, let's inspire, let's encourage, let's motivate, let's find that empowerment to move forward, to continue on, to keep that attitude for gratitude, if you will. And really, just know that today is MLK Day. So happy MLK Day to you. For those that work in the either federal or state or banking, today is a holiday for you. So I get today off. I'm usually off on Mondays anyway from my federal part-time day job that I do. So I'm actually still working. I've got readings later this afternoon. But I wanted to talk about a few things that has come up, and also just recap what I've been talking about this year. I just did my podcast, which we've moved up to number 24 for most inspirational podcasts out there, Inspired Living, which is an honor, because last year we were number 25, so we made the top 25 of the 70 best. And there's thousands of podcasts out there, you guys. So I was really honored just to even be considered as a top podcast, now streaming through all the major podcast platforms, from iTunes to Spotify to iHeartRadio to Google Podcast to YouTube. And last week I talked about numerology and the forecasting for our roaring 20s, and what I've been seeing coming for a long time. I said that the 2020 experience was going to be transformative, difficult, chaotic. It's been that. We've planted a lot of seeds and we've torn down a lot of things during that 2-year process. We've talked everything from medicine to politics to technology, trying to survive our technology advancements that we're rapidly going through, and just the different sources of communications, and misinformation and disinformation. And it's been really interesting to observe, and at the same time watch how people behave and how people react. And that's been as an observer of society, and watching what unfolds as a spiritual aspect of it, because they always say the art of spiritualism is the ability to shift your perspective. And I'd say that our perspective has shifted a lot over the last 2 years. But I'm going to come back to a message that Martin Luther King Jr. had talked about when he was doing his march back in the 60s and gave his life for him. And somebody, murdered him, assassinated him. And today we celebrate his vision. I have a dream, his passions, his dedications, his life to, move forward, where he was so passionate about what he believed and what he saw for humanity. You noticed I said humans, because really we're all humans. I know in society we can say, we are black, we are white, we are brown, we are yellow, but at the same time, we have one planet and we have one species, and that's humans. And I always, when people say, well, what's your religion? My religion is love. My religion is nature. And, just because we look different, and we have different ways of being, different ideologies, different beliefs, at the end of the day, we all go to that same place. Unless you have a different heart, unless you have different blood, unless you have a different brain, the makeup, the foundations, the core of who we are the same. And today, with everything going on, again, the uncertainties, the chaos, the violence, I talked about on my podcast that this was going to be a year of hope. This was going to be a year of not only continued transformation and planting seeds like we've done the last 2 years, to cover many things from systemic racism, equality, equal pay, what's going on at the highest levels of our government. And I don't care what party you support, but just bringing a lot of truths to light. And he always said the time is always right to do what's right. The time is always right to do what's right. And so I thought about that, and I thought, well, what did he really mean by that? We're talking 60, so we're talking many years ago. And what he was saying then, that still applies today as we celebrate him as a national holiday of MLK Day. It means that it's never too late to stand up for justice against what you consider wrong. We must all stand against injustice, and it's never too late to turn around. And that's what this year is going to be. There's going to be some things that come out that's going to piss a lot of people off. It's going to, maybe even cause a little bit more of this divide that we're in, this misinformation, this disinformation. But there's going to be accountability. There's going to be responsibility, and accountability are the words that I see. But I go back to my podcast I did 2 years ago when I first started, about what I was seeing, and the words still resonate today: self-mastery, homeostasis, sustainability, the great coming together. We will get that. We will get there. But we also know that great transformations are preceded by chaos. Deepak Chopra talked about that, and I talked about that on the podcast, Inspired Living, that, this time period that started at the beginning of March, I guess it would be March of 20, when we officially shut down. I knew about this pandemic in around Christmas time. I was watching it because I work in healthcare inspections, and I kind of keep an eye on that. I work here at Harborview Medical Center. I teach down at the hospital for basic life support and CPR. So I was keeping an eye on that. Like, is this really going to become a pandemic? Is it really going to become a global phenomenon that shuts the world down? And it did. And with that has caused many different ripple effects. It's even impacted my spiritual work for the readings I do. This month has been a lot of widows coming to see me who have lost their loved ones, their husbands, their partners from COVID. So that's been interesting to observe and watch that. And, from this pandemic to what we've seen, the changes, it's going to get better, guys. I talked about this on the podcast. It will get better in the fact that this is the year of the hope. I follow the numbers as a numerologist, and people might say, well, how does numerology work? Is that like astrology? Is it like the tarot? When I became interested in the mystics, spirituality, psychic sciences, mediumship, the unknown, the unseen, what that did is it unlocked some tools for me to look at how the universe can connect with us. And numerology is just the voice of the universe without having a voice, without having a vibration, right? Without having a frequency. That's why I have my blue singing bowl here, which represents the throat chakra. And the numerology is really goes back to as far back as we can. We know it goes back to Pythagoras, his theorem, and how he related it to music notes, and how the universe can talk to us through sound. And numbers correspond in patterns and trends. And so numerology is something that I became interested in for my own journey, really. Nothing really to do with doing readings or my art of spiritual practice today, because I really didn't like math growing up in elementary, high school. Didn't understand algebra. Did pre-algebra, algebra, geometry, and pre-calc, which I just didn't get it, didn't understand it, right? But it's the universal language of everything mathematics is. And it took me later in life to be numerology is a correspondence of numbers and how the universe can talk to you through the number sequence. So we know that this philosophy, as far as the research I've done, is dated back well over 11,000 years that we can recorded history. And it's the universe's way of telling us, kind of like when we look at the stars. We've navigated the stars for how many years to discover the new world. We've, to make predictions on your horoscopes. And it really is a cousin to astrology. And it really did give rise, numerology gave rise to the astrology that we know today. And using numerology, the 2022, if we were to break that in half, the foundation of 2 and 0 is really about foundational numbers of opposing ideologies, if you will. So 2 and 0 is peace, and the 0 represents like a spiritual, how would you say it? A spiritual openness of growth and oneness and wholeness and continuous circles. And then the 22 comes in, and that's a master builder number. It's a year represented by hope. It's literally called the master builder as a master number 22. Master builders is what it represents. But what it does is it also is going to continue to have forces that challenge one another until we get to the 2100s. This time period for the next several years will have opposition. And part of that's our technology, the advancements of our technologies, keeping up. Can we evolve from our technologies? Can we grow from our technologies? Time will tell. But when I forecasted and when I saw what was happening for Roaring Twenties this year, because I'm with you. I was, as a human, I'm like, wow, we're really, I was talking about a national divorce, possibly a second cold civil war, moving of states in the United States. And I still see that. I still see part of that taking place. But this year represents hope. And the master builder is starting to come in and it's going to rebuild. So there's going to be some accountability, some responsibility, some rule of law. And it's just interesting that, Martin Luther King Jr., his quote of, the time is right, is always right to do what is right. That's a reminder for all of us, whether you agree with history or don't agree with history, that's fine. But it's just a reminder that we are a country made of rule of law, democracy, and it's gonna come back. The pendulum's gonna swing back. So we're just building a structure. We're building a new base. The twos represent the vibrational energy, if you will, of peace. But it also vibrates duality, which is good and bad, good versus evil, light versus dark. But it also represents adaptability. It represents faith. It represents trust, cooperation, diplomacy. So this year will be a year of hope and the master builder. And what's interesting is every week I pick a card here on what I need to focus in on for my journey. And the card I picked, no kidding, just picked at random. I just kind of reach over here. And if you join us in the Compassion Cafe, you know that I do live mediumship readings. I do card readings. And the card I picked today was the Master Builder number, the 22. And this, all this card represents is it has the talent, it has the ability to create firm foundations this year. So free will and choice always apply, but it does represent how necessary that is for this time, that in order to have the master builder, a universal number, which is 22, but if you take the 3 2s and add them up, it's also the number 6, which is universal number. 6 is very, very powerful. Nikola Tesla talked about the powers of 3, 6, and 9. If only people knew the power of 3, 6, and 9, they would change the way they look at things. Again, that's a number sequence. That's numerology. That's using something outside the realm of logical or rational educational stuff. That would be more of the metaphysics, which I really enjoy and follow now. But it really is the building now of good foundations. It's important for our security. It's important for long-term growth. I think we'll look back at this point in our history from the politics to the pandemic and be like, wow, we really evolved. And evolution and transformation are hard. They're, the butterfly doesn't become the butterfly without going through a great struggle from the caterpillar phase into the cocoon into the butterfly, and that's where we're at. But they're also, if castles are built on sand or if castles are built in the air, they're just dreams. The house built on shifting sand seldom provides long-term shelter. That's what firm foundations means. A house built on sand doesn't last long. So it's always important, if you think of construction from a house, just with your house that you live in, if you had a poor foundation over time, the cold weathers, the shifting, the expansion, the contraction. I'm here in Seattle, so we have, we had a record temp of our highest temp to date that we set a record in June. It was 109 degrees to where in December we got down to 17 degrees. So there's like literally a 91 degree fluctuation. And your house, the components of your house, the materials of your house, react to those actions and reactions of energy and moisture, especially here in Seattle with all the moisture and rain that we have. But if the house is built on what they call a shifting sand, or if your house is built on a foundation that is poor, eventually it's not going to provide you long-term shelter. And that's what the master builder does. It's really taken out some of our foundations over, I wouldn't just say the last 2 years of the Roaring 20s. I say this has been building for some time, at least the last 6-7 years that I've noticed. But these are times when it's necessary to consider just what needs strengthening in your life. And that's what Metaphysical Mocha Mondays is about. It's not just about coffee and tea. It's about empowerment, encouragement, motivation, finding that diamond within. And I changed the logo of the show page this year to demonstrate the diamond thing, because this is the year we start to reveal our diamonds for who we are as humans, to reveal the brilliance and the beauty, knowing that if there's no pressure, there's no diamond. And that's what the Master Builder is about. And I hope that, that you're staying safe and that you're staying healthy mind, healthy body, that you're participating in public health and democracy. I'm not going to get into the whole vax, anti-vax, mask, anti-max. If you go throughout history, we saw this back during the pandemic of 1918 to 1920, which lasted 2 years. That's where masks actually came into play, because they realized that's how it was spreading. And to this day, your dentists, your doctors wear masks to protect them, to protect you. I always say vaccines are like a seatbelt. Are they 100% effective? No, but neither is a seatbelt, but they do keep you safe. And seatbelts weren't always a thing. I grew up in the 70s where you didn't have to wear a seatbelt, right? Or wear a helmet, skiing or bicycle riding. So there are things in place. Science is always fluid. It's the truth of the time, but it always evolves. I've just watched so much disinformation and misinformation and creating, different realities, multiverse, I guess. And it's going to change. It's going to be addressed. It's going to start coming back to, like I said, the words of sustainability, self-mastery, homeostasis, which in medicine is representation of a center pathway, not a far right, a far left, not a fight, not a flight, but an actual movement into a center path. And I believe that's because people are tired. People have seen social media for what it is, what cable news has done. The information it delivers is not, factual. It's not journalistic standards that you have to have for a democracy. To the fourth estate is what we call as a constitutionalist. In order to have a free and fair democracy, you have to have journalistic, and that's been, that's been diluted and dirtied in so many different ways, and social media has just added to that. So it's hard to know what to believe today, right? Because you turn on a channel or you get on and look at something on, social media, Facebook or, Instagram or Twitter. That's why I kind of like Instagram, and I've been doing more work on TikTok and Clubhouse, because there's just so much stuff and there's so much hate out there in social media. So I really try to use my platforms for positivity, knowing that I'm still going to get negative comments. I'm still going to get trolls and bots and, people that are clickbaiters. That's just the world of social media. But it really does come back to, the time is always right to do what is right. And it's never too late to stand up for justice against what you consider to be wrong. That moral fiber, that golden rule, pay it forward, treat others as you like to be treated. And, as we move into Mercury retrograde, which how it's going to affect us, that started on Friday the 14th, I believe. But, be mindful of the retrograde, because that's that planetary alignment. The moon has impacts on us. It creates our ocean currents and waves. The moon's gravitational pull does. We're 65% water, so there's definitely pull of things that are unseen on us. But, review, take this time to not do a lot of, if you're going to travel, be patient. If you're going to do a big contract, and wait till the retrograde's over, and just use this time to review long-term issues. Focus on an area that may be beneficial to you. That's what this Master Builder card represents. Taking professional advice may be needed to generate some plans that you may have coming on. Seek somebody that works in the industry. I do a lot of consulting, spiritual wise, metaphysics wise. So a lot of people come to me for that kind of things. But if you have a plumbing problem, you go to a plumber. If you have an electrical problem, you go to an electrician. If you have a health problem, you go to a doctor. People that have been in the work and have done the work and the studies. And just take that professional advice for what you need to generate your plans moving forward. Working together as a team may lighten the load and make the challenge easier. I think we could all learn from that. Work and effort put in step by step provide underpinning for the future. The best part about our future is it comes one day at a time, and the seeds we plant today. That's what this show represents, planting seeds today for your week ahead. That's why I do the shows on Mondays. We try to be here every Monday at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then at 8:30, we'll go to the Compassion Cafe and do some live readings and some interactions. Quality work may slow things down in the short term, but will provide long-term rewards. So it's like, don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. Keep moving forward. Keep smile at a stranger, help an elderly person out, pay it forward, buy somebody a cup of coffee. I do that a lot of times at Starbucks. I just say, hey, just grab the person behind me and I'll pay for them. And usually it starts a chain, and then it's been done to me several times. I'm like, well, how long has this been going? And some of the coffee shops, sometimes it goes all day long, people just paying it forward. So, I know that there's a lot going on. I know that there's a lot to be, get down on. Your focus determines your reality, as I like to say. But during Mercury retrograde, we're entering a deep period of introspection and reflection, where we will revisit. We're going to revisit, review, and reconstruct aspects of our life. That's what this Master Builder card. See how it has the bricks. See it has that castle on sand, and we want to build it on bricks, not sand. But what we want to do too is, during this time for retrograde. How long does the retrograde last? Let's see here. I always go to the Farmer's Almanac from the 1700s to kind of track, like when our full moon cycles come out. Because I saw this from emergency medicine, when there was a full moon cycle, guaranteed to be busy with calls. The ERs would be full. There would be a lot going on. But I believe we're going into February, early February, if I remember correctly, right off the top of. So we started on January 14th. And since the retrograde starts out in Aquarius, you can expect things to go a little haywire when it comes to your social media pages, the internet connection, and computer operating systems. I've seen this being in radio for 7 years. For sure, we always pay attention to when we're in retrograde, because it's interesting how the connections, energy, frequency, vibrations are all impacted. And then what'll happen is, I want to say February 3rd is when it ends. But I can't, let's see, I'm going to the old Farmer's Almanac here. Let's see, from January 13th. So technically started on the 13th, according to the Farmer's Almanac. You can go out there and get different resources, but I always just try to follow the old Farmer's Almanac. And it's going to take place from January 13th to February 3rd. And, this practice of astrology is influenced by the effect of Mercury in retrograde. And so that's where I go for my sourcing. I always try to, if people ask me where you get your information, I do try to source it, where you do the research, because I'm not in a lab if you talk medicine, but I do try to, source my information. So I'm being diligent and make sure I'm not passing along misinformation or disinformation, which that's going to be a thing this year. You're going to see more and more of that start to get flagged. But you're going to notice during this time between now and February 3rd, how there's going to be, major revelations and insights occurring, which is going to cause some disarray. We're going to see this in the news and world events from now until February 3rd. We're going to have a little bit of discomfort to help us release our past and to reboot our energy and find strength to move forward. That's part of the Mercury retrograde. We're also going to, expect your senses to be heightened, to be a little bit more intuitive about things. Maybe some unexpected or strange happenings, which happens all the time. I'm so used to it now, it's not even really a thing for me. Maybe some vivid dreams, maybe some astral traveling, if you write your dreams down in a dream journal. Of course, we're going to see electrical and technology delays and disruptions. I've been seeing that for as long as I've been in radio. Like I said, there'll be a lot of miscommunication. So this is a good time really not to get into big, deep communications with people, and maybe say, hey, let's talk after February 3rd. And you don't want to get into misunderstandings or meltdowns, which is so easy to do over text or, over social media, because it's so subjective, right? You don't know what the emotion is behind somebody responding. And we've got a lot of, people in isolation, pent up anger, mental health issues, so just really be mindful of your communications. You may be feeling exhausted. You may be feeling a little bit overwhelmed right now. If you're craving solitude, listen to that. That's, I take the month of December off. I go away from everything, or try to the best of my abilities, just so I can come back in January and really kind of just get back into it. But the past, this time, you may find that you're suffering your past, or your past is resurfacing. And, maybe it's time for a second chance and some closure with some of your relationships. Synchronicities, of course, which we call synchronicities and coincidence, will continue to flow. You're going to see the pattern numbers of 111, 555, 777. Those numbers represent independence, represent freedom, love, adventure represents truth. Those are the numbers in numerology that we're going to see from now until February 3rd. But I just wanted to share that with you, and just leave you with a reminder, because people, there's a lot of different beliefs out there, there's a lot of different information out there, a lot of different channels. I hope you join me on Monday mornings. So make sure to subscribe to the page and join the 36,000 follower, 36,000 spiritual prospectors that are searching for their own diamond within. And then join us for the Compassion Cafe. That'll just get started here in just a few minutes here. And then you can follow me over on my YouTube channel. You can follow me over on TikTok. I can do TikTok lives now. I had to get over 1,000 followers, and I'm close to 3,500. Wow, it's just crazy. But I thank you for following the work. Thank you for listening in. Thank you for having a cup of coffee with me this morning. And if you want to find more about what I'm doing or book a reading with me this year, just go to marklainhart.com, internet search the Intuitive Prospector. You can find me in my professional profiles where I've been tested and vetted, and testimonials and feedback of the work I do. But if you go to marklainhart.com, you can get to pretty much everything that you need to, from the radio show to my latest article to my newsletter, to all the links of my social media that I'm doing. So I just want to leave you with this on the Master Builder year. It is a Master Builder year, so get ready. The time is always right to do what is right. Happy MLK Day to you. And I'll just leave you with this little bit of gold nuggets to help you on your journey this week. Never blame anyone in your life. Good people give you happiness. Bad people give you experience. Worst people give you a lesson, and best people give you memories. So good reminder, because I've had all of those along the path. And it's a Master Builder year. So do good, do better, be a better version of yourself than you were last week. We can all find ways to improve, and the time is always right to do what is right. So thanks for hanging out with me here today. I hope that you have a great rest of your week. Stay healthy, stay safe, and until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate, and most importantly, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live, and discover that diamond within. I'll see you guys next week. Take care, everybody. Namaste.
One planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Marc's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live. For more information on Marc's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marklainhart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.